Hello and welcome back to Timeline Talk. We've got a very special episode today. It should be all about the international break, and it will be, but we've got to cover some breaking news first. The Ballon d'Or shortlist has been released, the 30-man shortlist, and United have two different players in it. Like, I can't remember the last time I was able to say that. So we're going to be getting all the reaction to that straight after this.
Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from Passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Here we have it, a bit of a smaller panel than usual. We're just waiting on a few people stuck in traffic, so hopefully it'll grow by the time the episode goes on. But to start with, Henry, how are you? It's good to see you, mate.
Yeah, I'm pretty good, man. I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm very good. Before we get into it, be sure to like and subscribe, all that jazz. Lots more episodes coming up for you. Should be a good uncut on Sunday as well, so stay tuned for that. But like I said, 30-man shortlist. United have two players on it, Bruno Fernandes and Cristiano Ronaldo. I'll ask you first, Henry. Do those two players deserve to be on it?
Yeah, justified, I think. I don't think you could put some of the players that I've seen on there and not Bruno and Ronaldo. Ronaldo's a given. There's no way you can't include Cristiano Ronaldo in a shortlist like that. And Bruno on performances, maybe not as recently as such, but in the last year or so, 100% deserves to be there. So, yeah, I'd say completely justified, yeah.
More specifically then, do either of them have a chance of winning it? Because I suppose that's why we're all here, really.
Well, that's a different question. I'd say Ronaldo always has a chance of winning it, regardless of seasons. He gets ridiculous numbers anyway, so I think there's always a chance. I think with Bruno, it's a different story. I don't think Bruno will get it, just because of the especially recency bias. Messi does get a little bit more kind of, votes because of the allegiance to him from different people. So I don't think Bruno will get near it. Ronaldo will be top five. I would have thought. If he's not top five, that's scandalous because the numbers he's putting in that pretty garbage Juve side was pretty incredible. So yeah, I mean, it's going to come down to the top five best players. De Bruyne will be in there, I'm sure. And definitely a Chelsea player will be in that top five, I would have thought, especially considering the Champions League win. So, and obviously Super Cup as well. So, yeah, I think Ronaldo will be up there. I don't think Bruno will.
Do you think then Ronaldo will make the top five? Because I think that's a point of conversation, because I suppose the whole thing is Ronaldo still one of the five best players in the world? I get he's got this reputation as probably the second best player of all time, but the age thing does go against him. He's not won any real silverware. He won a cup with Juventus, I think, but is he still in that top five category for you?
100%. If you don't include him, then there's some problems there. Just based on the fact that he carried that Juve. I mean, again, it's proof this season he carried that Juve side. So if he's not in the top five, that's worrying. I think again, Messi hasn't had I know he's won the Copa America, so he'll obviously be up there again, but he hasn't had a fantastic kind of 18 months, I'd say, in regards to trophies and accolades apart from the Copa America. So yeah, I don't think there's a scenario where Ronaldo cannot be in the top five. I can't see it, just because the two greatest are in that. And until they retire, I still think they'll be up there because they're still putting in crazy numbers.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, get your comments in, anyone who's watching. Who do you think will win the Ballon d'Or? Do you think Fernandes or Ronaldo have any chance? Do you think they should have been nominated in the first place? I think the answer to that is definitely yes. But yeah, let us know. It'd be great to get you guys involved. But who will win it then, Henry? What are your thoughts? Who is in line to win the Ballon d'Or this year?
Well, we've seen some ridiculous people win it, in terms of Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't call it. I would say Messi again, and that's not based on performance. It's never based on performance. The Ballon d'Or is a bit of a joke at times. I mean, when when Modric won it, I was thinking this is just lost all merit. This is obviously an individual award, but it's lost all merit when he won it. So um, I don't know. Couldn't call it. To be fair, it wouldn't surprise me if you saw like Azpilicueta win it or something weird like that. Just because if you win the Champions League, your chances of winning the Ballon d'Or go up by like 20-30%. So yeah, don't know, but I hope Ronaldo and Bruno are up there, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, Alice, it's great to have you on. Thank you for joining us. We are, if you haven't clicked on, we're talking about the Ballon d'Or shortlist because obviously Ronaldo and Bruno Fernandes have been nominated. Just initially, I think I know the answer to this, but do you think they've done enough to be in that 30-man shortlist?
Yeah, definitely. You know, you could argue that maybe Paul Pogba could even be in there over some of the names in there as well. So yeah, definitely.
Well, I want to get your thoughts on this then. I'll come back to you, Alice. Did Luke Shaw do enough to be in there? Because arguably he was the best left back in the world last year. He also played a massive role in getting England to the Euro final, and he's not been nominated. Yeah. Whereas I think you can technically call him a fullback, but Azpilicueta was based on winning the Champions League. He didn't do much at the Euros. Was there a claim for Shaw to be nominated?
Oh yeah, if Azpilicueta's in there, Shaw should be there. I see that Phil Foden and Mason Mount are in there, and while they've been good, they didn't have the impact on England that Shaw had. I guess Mason Mount won the Champions League, but Phil Foden, he didn't play that many games for City, but when he did, he was good. But I'm like, if Phil Foden, Mason Mount, Azpilicueta get nominated, why aren't the likes of Luke Shaw? So for me, definitely.
Fair enough. Would you agree with that, Henry?
Yeah, I just think still I don't like it anymore. If I'm going to be completely brutally honest, I just don't agree with some of the players in there. Diaz, really, and again Mount, okay, fair-ish. Sterling, good at the Euros, not even being selected for City anymore. Again, I don't take it as seriously as I used to. So I just don't see the point in it, to be honest. Not rigged, but it's pretty close to it at times.
Fair enough. Well, we'll come back to that because it's a good talking point. I just wanted to get your thoughts quickly, Alice, on who you think will win it, because I think it's probably fair to say Bruno Fernandes and Cristiano Ronaldo won't. But given the names that were brought up, who do you think's in with the best chance?
I don't know really, because you could say Messi, but then if he doesn't hit it off at PSG, does he really deserve it? Hasn't scored a goal in a couple of Ligue 1 games now. I mean, to be fair, for me, if anyone deserves it, I would give it to Lewandowski, because I think he deserved it last year when it was cancelled, and he's been so good this year. He broke the record, and I think he's a bit unlucky because he broke the Bundesliga record, and then Haaland got Player of the Year, and it's a bit like, well, I think Lewandowski deserves something for the absolute crazy numbers he got on. So, to be fair, I feel like unless Messi has an absolutely insane next 2 months, I'd probably give it to Lewandowski, to be fair, because I think the Messi, Ronaldo, like, while they're still top players, they are sort of aging. I think, it's time to maybe next generation of Ballon d'Or winners.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I'll come to you, Henry. We might have just slightly mentioned this, but I think the big candidate that's sort of somewhat unexpected is Jorginho. Obviously won the Euros, won the Champions League as well. Does he stand a chance in your eyes?
For me, I think it would be a bit... It's one of them, like, when Modric won it, it was like Ronaldo really should have won it the year Modric won it. Like, Ronaldo's stats were, like, insane. And I think the Jorginho one it's like, when they were saying Jordan Henderson was going to win Player of the Year, like, 2 seasons ago, and Jordan Henderson was tipped to win Player of the Year. It was a bit like, well, if it goes to Jordan Henderson, it's a bit of like a work hard award. I felt like you couldn't really take it too seriously. So I think it could go to Jorginho, but I don't think it will. I think it'll be like the Jordan Henderson thing where it ends up going to who probably deserves it. And I think it will be Lewandowski, Messi, Ronaldo will probably come third. Haaland might be in there, Salah might be in there, but I don't think you can really give it to Jorginho. He's not been like insane. He's just won a Champions League and the Euros. But if it's off trophies, they might give it to him. But I think it should be about the individual player, not about their team and their trophies.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, I've got the shortlist up for anyone who hasn't seen it. I'm not going to read through it. I'll let you guys do that. yourself. But Henry, we'll come back to the topic. Obviously, since Modric won it, the awards sort of been a bit tarnished. Do you think it still holds the same weight in the footballing world as it once did?
Well, I think this is difficult because in the last few years, in the last like 15 years, it's been Ronaldo and Messi at the top, and that's not even been disputed. Maybe Neymar, a little bit, a couple of seasons, but I think that kind of has overshadowed. If we would have had a proper competition, I think it would have lost credibility many, many years ago. But I think because those two are so far ahead, you almost couldn't not give it to one of the two. But again, it's pretty open now that they're getting older, and they're both settling into new clubs. So I'd love to see Kante get it. If I'm being honest, I would absolutely love to see Kante get it, and just based on merit for the last, I know it's a yearly thing, but over the last 4 or 5 years, he's been one of the most underrated players I think we've ever seen. He somehow managed to win the Premier League at Leicester, and then he goes to Chelsea, and he's now winning Champions Leagues and the Premier League and a Super Cup. And they look a little bit lost without him at times. Chelsea, when he doesn't play, they look like they're missing that energy, and he's also underrated with the ball at his feet as well. So I think that's someone that I would maybe think, yeah, okay, a little bit more credibility on this now. If someone like him won it, that deserves it, not just because they're a big name.
Fair enough. I'll come to you then, Alice. I'll ask you a similar sort of question. In your mind, does the award have as much credibility as it once did, given recent winners and the fact that obviously it was for some reason called off when Lewandowski almost had it in the bag? So, does it still have that same appeal that it once had?
I don't know, because I think some of the award winners are questionable. Like when Modric won it, it was like, okay, he was great, and he got his team to a World Cup final and he won the Champions League. But I mean, Ronaldo's stats were incredible that year. I remember, I think he had like 60 goals or something, and it was like, it really should have been Ronaldo the year that Modric won it. So I just feel like, I think the Ballon d'Or, it does go down in credibility because, as I think someone said earlier, Sterling in there. There's a lot of Manchester City players in there when half of them are on the bench for half the season, and I just think there is a little bit of, if you play, it's kind of like, like with FIFA ratings these days, where it's like Phil Foden gets an 84 and Mason Greenwood gets a 78. And I'm like, well, Foden's better than Greenwood, but it's not, that much better. And I think that's what the Ballon d'Or is like. They just go with, okay, they play for this team. Oh, this team did this. They're one of their better players. We'll chuck them in. I think, you look at the 30 nominated and you go, there's probably some names that could be in there over certain names. And I think it is a little bit trophy bias. So I think, yeah, for me, it's going a little bit like, then I feel like the research should be done a little bit better. It should be about individual player, not about who you like, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough. It's definitely sort of casual opinions more than sort of stone cold facts, isn't it? But we'll sort of bring it back around to a United point of view. I'll hand it over to you, Henry. Having 2 Ballon d'Or nominees in the top 30, I can't remember the last time we had that. It seems like years and years ago. Does this show progression as a club, or is this just 2 good individuals that happen to play for Manchester United?
That's such a difficult question. Actually, that's really, really tough to answer. And just based on the fact that, I mean, would Bruno have been there if he wasn't at United in that shortlist? Probably not, just because of, again, big club bias. You're more likely to be in there if you're putting the numbers in the Premier League. Ronaldo was a given, so when you signed him, you know he's going to be in that shortlist. There's no way he's not going to be in that shortlist. So it's proof that the club is going back to where it is. And I'm not talking about I'm going to forget the tactical side of things. I'm going to forget the managerial side of things because I'm tired of talking about it, to be honest. I think that if you look at the club as a whole and how it's being run, not ownership, put them to one side as well, but the footballing side of the club, it's being run better now. And I think maybe Varane's a little bit unlucky not to be in that list. Well, if Diaz is in there, really. If Diaz is in there, how the hell is Varane not in there? So, yeah, again, it's proof that the club are making the right signings. I think signing Ronaldo again, you can't not sign him really. I mean, if they wouldn't have signed him, he'd have gone to City, and that would have been the end of the Glazers, I think. So, yeah, it's a tough position, but you know we are improving as a squad. You know, forget all the other stuff, and you know we're getting back to where we were under Ferguson. I'd argue it's been probably 15 years since we've had a squad, maybe 12 or 13 since we've had a squad like this. So it's a positive, 100%.
Would you agree with that, Alice? That it shows a progression in terms of the players that United are now able to attract again? Because obviously we've gone from a front line of Memphis Depay, Wayne Rooney, and Juan Mata up front under Louis van Gaal to now Rashford, Ronaldo, Sancho, Greenwood, whoever you want to pick. Is that a sign of progression? And does this Ballon d'Or nomination sort of top it off for you?
I think definitely in a sense of like, you know, we got Sancho, Varane, and Ronaldo in a transfer window. And I think when you have Ronaldo at your club, you know, a lot more players are going to want to go to you. And I think Man United are lucky that we are a big name where we can always sort of attract players. But I think we just had to get that consistent top four to really attract the players. Because if we weren't getting top four, we'd have to go through the Arsenal route of going for your Ramsdales and your Lokongas and the smaller names. Whereas we could literally just go and pick up someone we know is going to transform us like Varane. And I think, you know, this last year, I think because we've got two top fours, we definitely look like a team that can pick up bigger names. Like, I feel like going into the summer, like, unless we don't finish top four, which I think would be a bit of a disgrace, I think that we could sit there and we could be like, you know what, if we want Tuchemini, let's say, we can get him, you know, because I don't think Barcelona are much of a threat anymore. Real Madrid, you know, the Premier League is where it's at. You know, I feel like it is the league. So I feel like if there's certain players we want, I think we're in a strong position to get them, you know, especially because we've got the money to give them the wages as well.
Certainly. Money's an interesting comment. We'll move on to other Premier League clubs who now have money later on in the show. But I want to move on to, you know, the title of the show. I think it's a growing frustration that we have as football fans now, because you know, we're 2 months into the season and we've already had, this is our second international break. We'll have another one next month as well. So I'll come to you first, Henry. Why? Well, do you think there's too many? And if so, what sort of impact is that having on the club side of the game?
Well, I think the interesting one is from Wenger recently. And I don't agree with 70, not even 75, 95% of what he says. It's just a bit out of touch by the looks of it. But if you keep having these breaks and breaking up a season, a club season, it can be a bit of a problem for your club side. So I think that if they're condensed into a month, like you mentioned before, if they're condensed into a month spell, where, to be fair, we're always talking about football. So sometimes it'd be nice just to kick back and relax a little bit, and then you can go back into the season. You don't have to think about another international break because it's just a nightmare. So I don't think they're going to stop. I just can't see. You know, it's tough because as a bigger nation, you know, you're going into the games against like Andorra and San Marino, and you're thinking, what's the point? But then on the other hand, you've got people living in that country who are going, well, it's a huge game for us. You know, it could be a massive underdog story. It's less likely in international football, but it does happen. So I think you can't just write those games off. And I think that's a bit of an elitist mentality when people say that, when you just say, scrap it, San Marino are crap, or, you know, Andorra. When San Marino score a goal, it's like they've just won a war. It is that big for them. They're celebrating in the streets, and it's like completely fair enough. So I think if you condensed it, it might make it a little bit more bearable. And I've just seen a comment there saying if you condensed it, it would you'd be without club football for a whole month. I get that point. I completely get that. But I think this is more frustrating because you get 2 or 3 games back into the Premier League and you're thinking, right, if you go on a good run, we can go on a really good run here. And it stops for another 2 weeks. It's just a bit. It's like, oh, not another international break. So I think if there was one, maybe at the start of the season, I don't know, if there was one international break and then just league football for the rest of the year, then I think it would be a lot more bearable for people.
Fair enough. I'll come to you, Alice, on the similar sort of thing then. Obviously, the frustration comes from the club point of view when players are out playing international friendlies and stuff like that, and then they pick up injuries, like we saw with Martial last season. He missed the rest of the season because he got injured in what I think was a friendly. If not, it was a qualifying game for the tournament they'd already qualified for. So, how do we balance that sort of? Yes, you need international football. I get that, but how do you make it so it's also fair for the clubs as well?
Yeah, I just look at it, and I agree with somewhat Henry's saying. You have to think about the countries like Andorra and all that. Like, it's a big thing for them, and you don't want to come with elitist mentality. But sometimes I just think about it and go, you know what? Like, the players sometimes need a break, and they go on international duty, they don't get a break, and you're wearing out the players. But the thing that annoys me is 3 Premier League games, an international break, another 4 Premier League games, an international break, another 4 Premier League games, an international break. It's like every single month there's an international break. And it's a bit too much. For me, I think, we shouldn't have one until maybe November. I think we should have at least like maybe 10 Premier League games, international break, maybe 12 international break. Maybe, I feel like, for me, to be fair, I would just have one in November and one in April and just have 2. Like one in November, maybe one in March, and then maybe one in the summer, just before the season starts. But for me, I don't like that we just had an international break a month ago. We've got another one, and then we got one in a month's time. It's just like I want to watch the Prem. The Prem's been out for 3 months, and I just think there should just be one in November, one in March. So there is 2, but just let the season get going. Stop breaking up for me.
So to follow up on that then, would you rather have maybe extend the international break by a week, get maybe an extra game in the international break and then have them less often, or would you rather keep it as it is?
The thing is, I wouldn't want a 3-week international break. I would just do 2 weeks, 2 games, because I just feel like, I know they're obviously like World Cup qualifiers and stuff, but I just sometimes think that some of the international breaks are pointless. And I know that kind of sounds elitist because it might not be points for other countries, but I just feel like they should just make it so there's less games that need to be played. Like, it sounds weird, but like you could almost just add a few more groups and make the groups smaller. So instead of having to play in like 5 or 4 teams, you have to play 2 other teams or 3 other teams. So then there's less games, because also the players are playing a lot of games as well. If they're having 3, 5, 7 international games from between the season start and Christmas, why don't you turn that into 4 or 3, like half it? Because it's also quite overwhelming for the players. So for me, I would probably just almost try and way to make the group smaller, so you don't have to play as many games when it comes to like qualifying.
Certainly, that's brought me really nicely on to my next question for you, Henry. How do we protect the players? Because like Alice says, if we have as many international breaks the other side of Christmas as well, that'll be an extra maybe 15 games into the legs of these players by the end of the season. Bearing in mind they're already overworked. We saw that the last 2 seasons, everything's getting crammed closer and closer together. Surely this can't be good for the players.
It's not. It's really not. And I think the Euros was, don't get me wrong, fantastic tournament, but it causes players a lot of problems. And I know the argument that they're still fit and they had a couple of weeks break, and that's absolutely fine. But these guys get, a couple of weeks off a year at most. A lot of them. I know some of them that don't travel with their international sides. They get a lot more of a break. But this is tough physical sport. And to those who say, "Well, football is is easy, you just kick a ball around," these guys are under immense pressure, on a daily basis, and putting their bodies to the max on a daily basis. So, yeah, it's tough. I don't know how you can amend it, and I'll stand by the. I don't think you can just bin off the games against the San Marino and Andorra and Kazakhstan or whoever it is. Because I'll liken it to something. Real Madrid this year, they've just been beaten at home by Sheriff Tiraspol. Like, who on earth thought that Sheriff were going to turn up there and win that game? They're Moldovan, the first Moldovan side. Well, supposedly Moldovan, political stuff, but they're the first Moldovan side in the Champions League, and they turn up to the Bernabeu and win in front of a crowd as well. So that I would liken to Andorra showing up to Turkey or something and winning 1-0. We've seen these things happen before, so I get the point of, it's so many games, but I just think my attitude towards international football, I don't like it personally. I don't like tournaments are fun, but the preamble and stuff, it does get dragged on a little bit. Friendlies should be scrapped altogether. Can it? It's pointless. You're playing players for the sake of playing them. It's damaging the players. That is one thing that is causing huge injury problems. Why is someone playing in a friendly game that it means nothing? A friendly game, absolutely nothing. Getting more minutes in the legs. That's what some people say. What, as if the players haven't got enough already? So scrap friendlies. The Nations League was fun last night. Don't get me wrong, but if you take those one-off friendly games, I think Portugal have got like Qatar in a friendly game. Like, I'm trying to be nice here, but who gives a shit about Qatar? Like, they can play someone in a qualifier for whatever, or in a competitive game for some sort of continental cup or whatever. That's fine, but it's just unnecessary travel and it damages the players. So yeah, scrap those. But the other stuff, I just don't think you can, because I think it takes away the idea of winning by merit. And if an international team win a few games and get into a tournament, then fantastic for them. Maybe a lower side, same as what's happening in the Champions League, and will keep happening. So yeah.
Fair enough. Well, I'll come to you, Alice. Obviously, looking at it from a United perspective in this, with this international break, I think the South Americans don't have to quarantine anymore, but the organising of it has meant that Brazil and Uruguay play each other one day before Manchester United play Leicester. So obviously Fred and Cavani aren't going to be available for that game. So does it feel like sometimes the club football is disrespected by the international matches?
Yeah, I think, as Henry said, I think in terms of friendlies, I 100% agree, you've got to scrap that. Like, we saw for Man United, especially towards the end of the season, players like Maguire, Bruno Fernandes, Luke Shaw, Marcus Rashford, they all dropped off or got injured towards the end of the season because they've been absolutely overplayed. Then they have to go play international friendlies before the Euros, then go play in the Euros. And it's like, give them a break. And I think, especially the fact that they 3 matches in, international break, another a month later, another international break, a month later, another international break. I think they should just, honestly, especially players that have to go all the way to South America, I just think they should really plan this fair. I just think it is a bit, they're not taking the leagues that seriously. It's just about the international break and all of that. I mean, like, luckily for Man United, Fred and Cavani isn't the biggest miss in the world. If it was like Bruno Fernandes and Ronaldo, I think we'd all be kicking up in teeth. But, game without Fred isn't, a nightmare at the moment. But, if you're Liverpool and you're losing Alisson, Fabinho, Firmino, then you're like, really, like, no. And I think, especially because it's South America as well, they should definitely make it at least 4 days before. I just think no thought process has gone into it. It kind of reminds me of the Saturday 3 p.m. blackout rule in the UK. It was like an old thing, and they haven't really modernised. And I think with international game breaks, we've had it for so long that they need to actually think, okay, we need to change this. Like, it doesn't really work anymore. It's just cramming in games. It's not, the scheduling's not right.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I can see Henry sort of celebrating inside that we're not going to have Fred there. I think it's a nice welcome break for him more than a miss for United. But yeah, there's not much more to say. Internationals are getting tedious and they need revamping or at least rethinking, so they're
just
not
quickly
so planned.
The reorganisation of these tournaments is still to the detriment of the players. Every single time, club or international, they think last about the players. And that's scandalous. They're the guys that are playing for the team. They're the guys that are trying to win for the fans. You know, at Old Trafford, the 75,000 that are there. And we're damaging them even more by making these utterly ridiculous competitions or extending them. Exactly. Again, it's getting to the stage where if you keep adding teams or keep adding games to the calendar, the players will burn out. It's as simple as that. They'll burn out and we won't have games. We won't have competitive games like we do now. You know, and I'd argue the games are very competitive now, don't get me wrong, because you've got sports science, which is helping them. But there's a certain level that the human body can go to. And if you push it above that level, players will get injured and we won't have the competitive games that we've got now. And I think it's just FIFA and UEFA are destroying football for money. And that is so sad. It really is.
Yeah, I completely agree. It does feel like a lot of international football now is based purely on how good it'll look on TV and how much they can sell it for to different TV companies. But sticking with selling your soul for money, we'll move on to Newcastle, who have just been bought out by a very, very rich, very, very murderous regime. Obviously, we won't go into the political side of it because I don't know enough of it to really make a comment. We all know it's bad, but it's hard to say how bad right now. But we'll talk about it purely in football in terms. I'll come to you first, Alice. Are Newcastle now a powerhouse of football?
Yeah. I mean, it depends how they spend the money, how they invest the money. You know, for all Newcastle could be, they could be really rich owners, but for some reason they take the money out of the club and not pay any in. You never know. They could, you know. You don't know what they're going to do till they start. I think, you know, if this was Man United, I'd just be gassed to get rid of the Glazers and stuff. And I think I would be excited. And then when you look into who's your owners and all that, it's a bit like, I think the thing is, like, obviously there's a bit of jealousy as a United fan because you're thinking City, Chelsea, Newcastle, they are the rich clubs. And like the Uniteds, the Liverpools, one of them is going to get pushed out the top four realistically, unless our owners start investing. And, you know, Leicester, Villa, Wolves, they've got quite serious owners. And in an ideal world, you'd want the Leicester, Villas and Wolves and West Hams to be challenging for your top four, your top six. And I think the Premier League now is whoever's got the most money is just like, you got it. Like, I don't think there's ever going to be a Leicester winning the league story again. I think the problem is, especially the Premier League, because it's so competitive, it's like someone actually tweeted they should need to give the Premier League 5 slots in the Champions League now because it is just so competitive. Because if this Newcastle takeover happens and Newcastle are like Manchester City, why are we given the French 4 spots, you know, in the Champions League when half of them can't even make it, you know, past the qualifier? Why don't we just take one of them, add it to Premier? Because the Premier League is so competitive. And I think the thing I don't like about it is football has become all about money. You know, I think, you know, it was like Newcastle obviously have always been quite a big successful team, to be fair to them. But, you know, there's Arsenal, there's Liverpool, there's United. It's about the fan base, you know, obviously the money side, but we just sort of generate a lot. And I do worry that, you know, in sort of long term, it's going to be the Newcastle, City, Chelsea era. And especially because Newcastle's owners are richer than everyone else combined. You know, if there's not some financial fair play implemented, Newcastle are just going to run away with it. And I think that's where you need to actually look at putting some kind of financial sort of fair play rules in, because otherwise Newcastle is just going to run away. And I don't, from a United perspective, like it's a bit annoying because it means we're probably going to drop out the top 4, us or Liverpool. But if you look at it from a West Ham Leicester perspective, you know how everyone was up in arms about the Super League and all of that, saying it's not fair for your West Hams, your Leicesters. Well, I just think it makes it harder for your West Hams and Leicesters. You know, if you've got 3 powerhouses of money and one extreme one, you know, I think there needs to be a way around it, maybe with fair play and stuff, to at least make it a more competitive league for, you know, your teams that want to get top 6, you want to get top 4, but might not.
Certainly. It is worrying. It completely is. Also, it raised a good stat the other day that I saw that United's owners, in terms of their actual wealth, aren't even in the top 10 in the Premier League. So it shows how much revenue United are actually earning, that we're able to constantly spend this much money, and with owners who aren't even in the top half of wealth, among others. But Henry, I'll come to you. What's your reaction of these people coming and buying Newcastle?
Mixed, very mixed. It's tough. It really is, because on the one hand, you're delighted for Newcastle fans. They've gone through absolute hell with that club in the last 15 years since Mike Ashley took over. And he made it very public that they didn't have the wealth. He didn't have the personal wealth to compete with the top clubs. I think that's a huge frustration from their point of view. He almost used it as a marketing kind of franchise, really, putting Sports Direct everywhere, trying to change the stadium name. That was a great idea, wasn't it? So I think, yeah, it's good for the fans. We can't really go into all the political side, because you've already got PSG's owners and you've already got Man City's owners. I know we all moan about them, but they're at the top, and there's not much you can do about it now. So complaining about human rights things will almost go on deaf ears, especially when it's so much money involved. The Premier League, I found conveniently, tried to block it as many times as they possibly could, because they don't want to, disrupt or upset their little buddies in the top six. The guys who are going to be pretty pissed that they've now got a controlling stake in Newcastle, just because of the vast wealth. And all the people that were saying scrap FFP, how's that going for you? Scrap FFP, they will bankroll football. And I find it interesting how they didn't choose to buy a controlling stake or a stake in Real Madrid or Barcelona. And my reasoning for that thought is, it goes to show, as Alice mentioned earlier, the demise of the Spanish league. The fact that they have that much money and they didn't go and say, we'll help you guys out. It says it already. The Premier League's a powerhouse, and it's going to keep getting stronger. And, each league has gone through periods of domination in Europe. But I think this could be one of the biggest we'll see in a very long time. But it's also funny, because our owners might have to dip their hands in their pockets a little bit now. And that's just because you've got to keep up with that. You've got to keep up with City as well, which we've struggled to do. You've got to keep up with Chelsea. And I think they're finally, they'll be sitting in their glorious mansion, but they will be absolutely shitting themselves right now. I tell you that, because they'll be thinking, oh no. They've already had Leicester, who've come along and barged us out of the top four before, and they've tried to push everyone around a little bit. They've done it the right way, don't get me wrong. City as well, and now Newcastle. So those top six clubs will be quaking in their boots, because this is going to be. They've got a lot of wealth, even 5%. If they spend 5% of their wealth on Newcastle, they're going to have state-of-the-art facilities. They'll probably expand their ground. Wouldn't surprise me. They'll put in a brilliant academy, and they won't be a selling club anymore. On the other hand, they could just strip the club of all the assets and piss off. But that won't happen. It would be quite convenient, quite funny if it did, but it won't. So this could be a torrid time for us United fans in the next few years. I'd say give it 5 years, because they've got to build first. You can't just have instant success. I know people saying, joking around saying they're going to buy Mbappe and Haaland, whatever. They can't do that straight away. And FFP just won't allow them to do that. And you've got to build a club before you can build a squad. So it will take a few years, but when they get there, it could be a big problem.
Yeah, obviously it took City 4 or 5 years after their takeover was complete to actually win the league. But it brings me on to a good point. I was having this debate just before we came on air. I'll ask you, Alice. In your opinion, are Newcastle more likely to win the league before United now?
Oh, you see, yeah, no, because you look at the Glazers and you look at, really, if Man United don't win the league this year, I just feel like, Cavani goes at the end of the season. We know that. Martial could go, Pogba could go, Donny could go, Matic could retire. We almost, I always worry that, this is our year to win something, to win a trophy. Ideally, the Premier League. Do I think we'll win it? Maybe not. I just think, we haven't looked convincing so far. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's not exactly easing through games, even when we win. And I'm worried because I think because of McTominay and Fred playing a lot and them being the first two choice midfielders, Pogba ain't going to want to stay through that. Donny's going to go. Matic retire, Cavani go, Martial go, Ronaldo won't get any younger, and we're looking at needing 3 midfielders, a striker, and what United are like when it comes to rebuilding. It'll take us about 6 transfer windows to get back in this position again because the Glazers are bad, and it's like because the Glazers had a good summer this summer, I just have a feeling we're going to have a bad summer next summer because I think they can have a summer where they just will buy maybe one signing, net spend of 40 mil and go, we're done. And I go, Newcastle, realistically, their owners are going to come and have the City approach, but I don't think they'll win the league for 5 years. I think it'll be about maybe getting in the top 10, then getting in the top 6, then getting in the top 4, then challenging. I think it takes at least 4 transfer winners, especially with FFP. But I look at United and I go, I like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but I just don't see him winning the league this season. And for me, if we don't win the league this season, I think we'll be looking at another rebuild with everyone probably leaving at the end. And if we're going rebuild for us and rebuild for Newcastle, at least Newcastle will get who they want. We'll probably want Declan Rice, and we'll probably sign Harry Winks under the Glazers. So I feel like we should with the players we have, but I feel like possibly Newcastle if we don't, take advantage of the team we have now.
Yeah, it's all looking a little bit daunting, isn't it? But Henry, I wanted to ask you this. I think a couple of minutes ago, Alice obviously referenced getting the recruitment right and making the right appointments. How important will that be for Newcastle? Because we've seen with United, you can't just throw money at things and expect to win straight away. Do you think that could go against them? Obviously, we have one of the highest net spend in Europe over whatever period of time, and we've not won the league for 8 years. So how important is it for them to get everything right in order to win the league?
Well, they'll go through a Man City model, I would have thought. The Glazers are idiots, let's be honest. They're business people, don't get me wrong, but the dad did most of the hard work. They're not the smartest. Joel's the brains, Avram's the dimwit who kind of gets shoved into the limelight when there's a problem, and it's like he did it. It's the younger one that you kind of push in. Not pushing the road, but essentially that's what Joel Glazer has done with him a few times. It's like a rabbit in headlights with him. So I think they'll go with a City sort of model. And the Glazers aren't footballing people either. They think that working like the NFL is going to work. Like outside of the US, not that many people really give a shit about the NFL. So that model doesn't work with United. So again, United is a global powerhouse. The business side, they hire a businessman in to do that. The footballing side, Newcastle will hire a footballing director. City have got they've got 2, I think, at the top who answer to Sheikh Mansour. So I would have thought Newcastle would do that. They've already appointed someone, I think, but I'm not sure whether that's to do with the footballing side of things. But they'll be a lot more hands-on, as City are as well. The Glazers, you don't see them. I saw the nerve of Avram to show up on Ronaldo's first game. What a prick! He shows up on his first game and he hasn't been at the club for like 3 or 4 years. What's that all about? So again, these owners will show their face. They've already spoken out to the fans. The Glazers didn't for like 15 years. And, it's taken the Super League for them to do that. So I think we're talking about completely different scenarios with United and Newcastle. I think they're going to have a hands-on approach. I think they'll get footballing people in to attack it. And I think they'll succeed, personally, sadly. But I think they'll succeed just because they're going to have the right people in charge. And they've got a lot more money. as well. They've got a lot more money. So changing those facilities, they could get 1,000 builders in to build a whole new training ground in a few months if they really wanted to. So, yeah, I think different scenarios and could be a little bit painful for us. The years of domination for United, I'm not going to say they're completely over, but for the time being, they're on hold for sure, just because of the big money in football now.
It's not great, is it? It's not great at all. It's looking a bit daunting. But I'm going to round this up before we all start getting a little bit depressed about the way football's going. So I'll hand over to you, Alice. Have you got any sort of final comments before we end?
Nothing too much to add. Just that worried about United long term, of course. I just don't trust the Glazers. Just as Henry said, they know nothing about football. And I'm assuming these Saudis do know something about football with going off Man City and I just think, even though this is our best chance to win a while, we didn't get CDM. I think we should have got CDM in the summer before Sancho, before Ronaldo, maybe not. I think Varane was definitely needed. And I just think, our owners, I don't think know lots about football. I think, the owners are giving all our coaches new contracts. The way we play, we haven't been convincing this season. Why are we giving a load of new contracts out? I think we've done a good job of going from point C to point B, as in being a team not in the top four to being a definite top four nailed on team every season. But, we're United. We don't want to be what Arsenal was in their last few years under Wenger, where we're a top four club. We want to be a team that wins. And with money becoming such a big part of football, and I do think it's going to just all be about money in the future. I think we need to get a trophy in this or next season, because I think when Newcastle are in full power, it's going to be harder, especially the Premier League. It's where it's all at. Barcelona's dead. Real Madrid, they're trying to rebuild, but there's a lot of FFP and stuff in La Liga, causing Real Madrid a lot of problems. Bundesliga is a bit of a step up league. You go to the Bundesliga, then you want to go step up. Serie A's a retirement league. Liga is not very watched. It's the Premier League. It's competitive, and I think in terms of winning a league title, it is a little bit worrying.
Certainly, it's not quite as worrying as how they've managed to even get this takeover completed, given the big human rights and ethical issues that come with it. But we'll leave that until we've got more information. But anyway, that brings a rather morbid end to the show. So I want to thank Henry and Alice both for joining me. Obviously, Alice is a special guest to this channel, so check out everything she's doing. There's some great work going on there, but you can follow Henry if you want. I won't recommend it, but it's your choice, I suppose.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate that.
That's all right. That's all right. Don't worry about it. But yeah, massive thank you to everyone who tuned in and commented. We had some great discussion. Thank you for helping us with that. And yeah, stay tuned. We should have a episode of Uncut coming for you Sunday. I don't think there's anything tomorrow, but yeah, stay tuned for that. Check these guys out. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.